Okay, so this is my project. I'm recording about my project is on Exile and Guyville by Lucifer. It's a song-by-song response to the Rolling Stones' Exile on Main Street. So in that way, as a concept album. The concept is sort of respond to this really classic Stones album, and also just generally, it's very much about being, I think, a woman. For Liz Phair, obviously she's a woman being in a field in indie rock in Chicago at the time that was very much dominated by men and all male groups, and that's definitely there's a lot of sort of casual machos, I'm not sure if that's a word, but in rock and roll, and that's very much dates back to the Rolling Stones. So first off, I wrote, it's not really an essay exactly, it's more just a collection of paragraphs sort of noting my thoughts on the record, and a few song-by-song sort of responses and discussions of the connections between the two songs, so that can be read. The first song on the track on Guyville is 6-1, and I think this is kind of this one's the most, of all the songs on the albums, I think this is the most clear response to the Main Street album, which is Rocks Off. So for me, here's the lyrics. I think Rocks Off is kind of about this guy who's just he's walking home from a one-night stand, I guess, and he's just talking about how he's kind of lost. I mean, he can't really be happy. He's kind of lost all ability to be content with what he has, essentially. And Liz Phair's response, and he sees his girlfriend, perhaps, or his ex-girlfriend, which is, I hear you talking on the street, and then your mouth don't move, but I can hear you speak. What's the matter with the boy? He don't come around no more. Is he checking out for sure? Is he going to close the door on me? So he's asking all those questions, and Liz Phair is sort of answering he's saying that this woman's asking all these questions, and Liz Phair is kind of playing the part of that woman, and saying, like, you sell yourself as a man to save, but all the money in the world is not enough. So, like, again, that is sort of like the idea that he's become so jaded, he's just kind of helpless. And for a woman in a relationship with a man like that, it's hard for her. Okay, what else? So then, for the musical analysis, I did Happy by the Rolling Stones, and I can find it. Shoot, sorry. And Fucking Run by Liz Phair. So I'm going to play them and talk about my graphs. Okay. Okay. Shoot. Sorry, I have to play it on my phone. Come on. Yeah, I'm just recording. So, I'm recording. So I think that the intro to the guitar is pretty. I'm recording.
Oh, wait.
So I think the intro to the guitar is pretty hopeful. As far as the emotions I feel, it's fairly repetitive. And it sort of begins to chime in already. Clearly, it grows on itself, kind of. And then the vocals come in. It's Keith Richards singing as opposed to Mick Jagger on all the other songs on this album. So this whole song's, I mean, it's definitely happy. It's upbeat and sort of excited, but I think it's also, we'll get to the chorus first. I think it's kind of wistful. I mean, it's kind of hard to tell if when he says, I need a love that can keep me happy, whether it's more talking about a current love or something he wants to have in the future, but I think just generally, even though, like, the guitar is very sort of upbeat and jolly, it kind of just comes off as not being that happy of a song, really. I just think it's kind of more wistful. And then clearly in my graph, I just kind of starts building on itself. And there's also this sort of response between between Keith Richards and then the background vocals, which Mick Jagger also sang on. So I think that sort of, I mean, it just makes the whole thing bigger, just sound bigger, I guess, which leads to it being happier, but I'm not so sure again if it's that happy, really. So the drum stays pretty steady on that. On the whole, throughout the song, it's not a super complex drum part, which is definitely very similar to the Liz Phair song. I know her drum parts aren't that complex. I just skip ahead a little bit. Very end. Anyway, it's kind of this whole thing for a while. And then there's a trumpet, or saxophone, I'm not really sure what that is. Some sort of horn, which is a lot more produced than any of the Liz Phair songs get. Those stay pretty much just guitars, drums, and bass, I guess. Okay. So it's a similar, just like one riff sort of intro, but the difference I think is this one immediately goes into it, whereas with Happy it kind of builds up with more guitar parts, whereas this one's just one guitar part. So already it's kind of simpler musically, and as far as guitar than Happy. And oh shoot, no, that always disappears. Come on. Okay, it should be here somewhere. Oh, here it is, okay. So, already, and then, so already this is considerably more, sad, I guess, and I just think that her voice and the just really repetitive guitar, drums, it doesn't change that much, but the lyrics are expressing sort of a wish that it will change, like here. I think it would happen again. But then, with the repetition of the musical parts, it is happening again and again and again, so I think that helps to convey that point as far as repetition. So I'll go to 45 over. Keep listening to it. So, more very clearly wistful, swishing. And then there's the double harmony. there, which is sort of similar to the color response on Happy. This multiple voices. This is kind of a big deal, I guess. So, alright, there's a new guitar part in there, a little riff. And there, I think very much the guitar, drums, and everything is really working together. In that it's kind of all stopping at the same point there. So I'll try to speak to it. So this first part, okay, here's the big part. So the most interesting thing about this, I think, for me, is the sleigh bells. I think they're sleigh bells. And just sleigh bells are so happy. I mean, I associate that with like Christmas carols, which typically are pretty much the jolliest music you can find. So it's interesting that the lyric is what it is. I can feel it in my bones. I'm going to spend my whole life alone. Just that juxtaposition, I think, is really interesting. It sort of goes against, well, I think it actually goes with the sort of wistfulness of Happy and then the name and the upbeat of the guitar. But really, it's I need a love that can give me happy. So it's not so much like I am happy, but I wish I were happy. This is again like this, like I wish I were happy. I wish I could play the sleigh bells, but I think I'm actually going to spend the whole rest of my life alone. So that's my more musical analysis. And at the keys and the BPMs there. And then overall, for Blues Fair song, it's similar in the tone to Happy. Similar sort of guitar, very focused on the guitar. It's less produced, doesn't have the horn. I think that's sort of a lot of Exile and Guyville, is that it's not very produced, and the main guitar was played by a very, he called himself a meat and potatoes guitar player, so sort of Stonesy, so in that way it's kind of, the whole album goes back to the Stones, but in general it's just, in the whole album, there's a lot of horns in Exile on Main Street, whereas Guyville is very lo-fi, and not as produced. So I think that's all there is to talk about in this and explain. Yeah, okay.